It's April 2019, Thunder at Blazers, Dame time. This is Remember That Game, the podcast about sporting events that take you on a journey and maybe chart the path of the zeitgeist. I'm your host, Thomas Emerick, and my guest is CityNerd, Ray Delahanty. Check out his urbanism and transportation videos, great work on Nebula, Patreon, YouTube, and now in the Remember That Game 3-time guest club. We've done Seattle Mariners, Seattle Seahawks, so of course we have to do Oklahoma City Thunder. You grew up with the Sonics, and then after they left for Oklahoma, you spent a long time urban planning for the city of Portland. Caught this closeout Game 5 against the Thunder in Portland. Some Pacific Northwest solidarity. Did revisiting this one help you process some emotions with OKC getting a ship?
Yeah. Like my history with this is I actually moved to Portland in 1999. So it was like what, eight or 9 years before the Sonics eventually left Seattle. And I think over that time, I like those 8 or 9 years, I kind of morphed into being a Blazers fan anyway. Just because the team, it was where I lived, and the team was generally better. I think, I can't remember which year it was. Was it like 99 or 2000 when the Blazers had a stacked team with like Rasheed Wallace and Scottie Pippen, Bonzi Wells, I think, and I think they lost like a 15-point lead or an 18-point lead against the Lakers in Game 7 of the Western Conference Final that year. I think that was the one that really made me take to the Blazers a little more than what I did before. But this particular game, I think when Oklahoma City comes to town in Portland, you do see Oklahoma City fans come in to see the game, but you do get some Seattle fans that come down with Sonics jerseys on, and they're not there to root for the Thunder. they're there to do the exact opposite. So it's always kind of an interesting dynamic. I think between the Blazers and the Thunder now, and then if Seattle ever gets an NBA expansion club, or if a club moves there, that's going to be interesting as well.
Yes, get the old Pacific Division back together, like it was in. Yeah, you mentioned 2000. Blazers lose Game 7 on the doorstep of the finals, prompting Scottie Pippen on the Blazers at the time, prompting him to say, "We realized we sort of made cowards of ourselves in the fourth quarter." Just a tough post-game quote from Scottie Pippen. Damian Lillard hoping to avoid that fate here in Game 5. They're up 3-1 against the Thunder. Oklahoma City, they took the team from Seattle. Folks should check out our Mariners Ichiro episode and the Seahawks episode where the Boz tries to get in the way of Bo Jackson, attempts to. Ray and I have done both those teams in the past. But, Ray, we would be remiss in not laying respect on the history of Pac Northwest Pro Ball, especially now that the Thunder have won a title, Blazers are wandering in the wilderness, and the Sonics, as you mentioned, do not exist. We want to revisit the great hope, peak Damian Lillard. As one YouTube commenter describes what we'll experience in this game, most disrespectful three-pointer of all time. Congrats. And we'll reverse to the start, but what was the mood like that day, and how much tension did it add for you it came against the Thunder?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a good season. It was a tough time to be in the Western Conference because Golden State was in the middle of their run, but like, I don't know how many. I think the Blazers probably won like 55 games that year. It was a good season. I think they ended up with the 3 seed. So hopes were high that the Blazers could make a pretty strong postseason run, and then who knows what happens. Like you probably lose. I mean, spoiler alert: they do get to the Western Conference Finals and lose to the Warriors this year. Yeah, in a sweep, where they were actually they were competitive in Game 2 in Oakland at the time. They actually led for most of that game, and it's like, oh, we can bring it back 1-1. This could actually be an interesting series, and then it fizzled out. I think they ended up losing by like 3 or 4 points down in Oakland. But at the time, like the Blazers had a 3-1 lead in the series. They had home court advantage because they were the 3 seed. I think the Thunder that makes the Thunder the 6. And you did what you wanted to do. I think they had held serve at home. They won 1 in Oklahoma City, and they were coming home up 3-1. So the feeling going into the game was pretty buoyant. I kind of remember, it was an evening game on a weekday. I forget what day of the week was, but I worked downtown, and the Moda Center where the Blazers play is just across the Willamette. I biked from work, and I got to the Moda Center, probably like an hour early, so I could pre-function a little bit. They've got a nice bike parking set up at Moda Center. It is Portland; lots of people bike, and so there's tons of bikes locked up in this one particular area, and it's right next to kind of the bar where everybody pre-games, and it was packed early. People were ready to get amped up for this game. So coming into the game, definitely positive vibes.
Yeah, we got 7:30 tip off. Given the traffic and modal share in Portland at the time, you is that something you worry about? I know you just put out a video on transportation planning. Some focus on Portland there. Folks should check it out. How good was the you went from work that day, but how good was the door-to-door experience of a Blazers game? If you ever went like from home to the arena and back?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty good. I think I've only ever once, because I would never drive there. It just didn't make any sense at all for me. But I think I got a ride there once, and we had to park in the parking garage, and it was just atrocious. Like the amount of time you had to wait to get out at the end of the game, forget it. But the Max, the Portland Light Rail has stations for both its east-west and its north-south line right at Moda Center. And so if you live in a neighborhood that's along the light rail line, or if you can go to like a park and ride or something, that's a pretty popular way to get to the game. And so they actually run extra trains. You can kind of see them toward the end of the game. They'll have them off in like a siding, and they'll run those extra trains at the end of the game to try to clear everybody out as quickly as possible. So there are a lot of good options to get there. The arena is nicely located right next to Veterans Coliseum, which is where the Blazers originally played. It's all part of the Rose Quarter kind of district right there. I think they still use the old Veterans Coliseum for concerts and also the minor league hockey, I believe.
Yeah, and I don't know, they're in what I'll always call the Rose Garden. I know Moda Health bought them in 2013, but early on they need the fans because on the court, Damian Lillard's trying to carry the team. He scores 34 in the first half, is hitting crazy contested threes in the first quarter just to keep it within 10. You got Russ and Paul George getting what they want. Enes Kanter getting stuffed by Steven Adams. Yusuf Nurkic is on the shelf. CJ McCollum's in foul trouble already. And you're hanging in 35-25 late in the first quarter. Is there a bit of tightness in the room? Is there a bit of a psychic weight being carried? Given that the Blazers, since that 2000 series you mentioned, they had 9 first-round exits and 11 tries.
Yeah, I think I don't know. There is a sense that Damian Lillard really is carrying the team. CJ McCollum was always and still is a pretty good. Oh, he's coming back to DC,
Yep.
I believe, right?
My neck of the woods. We're back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was always a. Yeah, serviceable isn't even a nice enough way to put it. He was very good, but he was always kind of secondary to Lillard, and CJ is not having a good game, a good game 5. He ultimately does. I think he actually outplays Lillard, if I remember right, in the Denver series that follows, when they win 4-3, including Game 7. So
in
he's a big
Denver.
contributor. Yeah, and so he's a big contributor, but just not this game. And yeah, like you say, if I remember right, Nurkic has like some sort of gruesome leg injury near the end of the season, and so he's out for the playoffs. And yeah, Enes Kanter, great offensive player and just an atrocious defensive player. So mixed bag to say the least. And then they've just got a bunch of they've got some, they're good players, but they're kind of like parts, right? Like Mo Harkless and Alfarik Aminu, and but it's kind of a testament to, I don't know, like Damian Lillard is a player who can he can beat you by himself in a lot of ways, but he seemed to make he seemed to help the franchise get a lot out of players that they probably had no business getting as much out of as they did, and that's kind of like a hallmark of what his tenure was with the Blazers. I think they went to the playoffs 8 seasons in a row when he was at his peak. And so there's kind of like the question is like, is it going to be enough? Because Paul George and well, definitely Paul George and Russell Westbrook to a certain extent seem to be on their game in this one. You were hoping they were going to just kind of fold up shop and go home, but it's looking like no, they really do. They're highly motivated and they really want to bring it back to OKC for Game 6. So yeah, that there's some growing nervousness as the game stays close in the first half, and I think things get worse later.
Yeah, and yeah, Paul George, he's gonna end up being on the wrong side of a pretty famous shot later in this game, but he's first team all defense. He goes 14 for 20 in this game, 36 points, and really has a great game. Unfortunate toward the end, but also toward the end, McCollum, as a few guys you mentioned, Al-Farouq Aminu, and Mo Harkless all have some crucial stretches, just the right time to help Dame out. But the rest of the time, it's Dame carrying the show. 34 in the first half. We go through the second quarter, and they're still trailing with from the first bucket down to 2 minutes left before they finally start to come back. And in that moment, as you're in the middle of a tight playoff game, Blazers the chance to win a series, you get to see in person. Do you have any flashbacks of watching the Sonics back in the day? Does anything come full circle for you there with your experiences growing up with those great Sonics teams in the 90s and fun ones in the 80s?
Yeah, I mean, the Sonics had some great stretches in, I don't know. Well, obviously they won a championship, but I was kind of too young to really grasp the import of that. And then also just the game itself has changed so much, and in the way it's played, it's really hard to compare that. So yeah, between the way I've I think I've matured as a person and the way the NBA has changed, it's hard to draw those comparisons. But probably the closest thing is the 1996 run that the Sonics had, where they went to the finals and ended up taking the 72 win Bulls to 6 games. Those were exciting wins in Game 4 and Game 5 for the Sonics. Even though you never really felt like, yeah, they're probably not going to win this series, but they're really showing a lot of heart and I don't know, that there's something about growing up in the Pacific Northwest, and I think this is something that maybe gives Seattle and Portland common ground, which there isn't that much of because the cities tend to be rivals with each other. But you do feel like you're off in this forgotten corner of the country. And so when one of your teams makes a big splash, it really feels like, okay, finally people are noticing us. We're not um, we're not a complete afterthought for once. So that's probably maybe the common denominator emotionally for kind of how I perceived that game.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the '79 Sonics, they win the title, but from the '80s through the '90s, the kids don't know, but no team won more games than the Portland Trailblazers from 1980 to 2000. Now you have to remove the Celtics and Lakers from that list, but still impressive, and only regular season. But Seattle Supersonics and Portland Trailblazers, both top 5 winningest teams in the regular season from 1980 to 2000. Pro basketball in the Pacific Northwest was something to behold. Now, fast forward to 2019, coming just over 10 years since the Sonics had left for OKC. Are you at this point still hopeful that the Sonics might come back, or nowadays in 2025, are you more resigned or more hopeful relative to past years?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm probably more hopeful than I have been, and I think part of this is also the emotional arc of losing the Sonics and the way they left, which is like a whole saga in itself. Just really felt, I think for Seattle fans, it just left a really bad taste in their mouths. So I think there were probably at least 15 years of, yeah, we don't really want the NBA to come back because the league itself was part of kind of the terrible way it all went down in like 2007, 2008. But I think it's one of those things where I don't know. It's like the Kubler-Ross stages of grieving or something, where you go through denial and anger and depression, and you get to acceptance or whatever. And maybe it's not categorical. It's more of like a continuous function, right? And so, but I think in general, Seattle fans are at the point where, like, there are a lot of people who just weren't either weren't alive or weren't really paying attention. They were too young when all that happened. It was almost 20 years ago now, and so I think there's kind of a new generation of Seattle folks who would be ready to embrace a new Seattle franchise.
Yeah, and what do we think about this case here? There's you had expansion teams in Seattle and Las Vegas, 32 teams, 14 divisions like the NFL. Would be 2 birds with 1 stone, because you can add enough games that maybe the NBA can cut the regular season from 82 down to 70. Guys out there popping Achilles in the postseason. Dame was a different situation than Tatum and Halliburton, but regular season ratings are down. Who knows if that has downstream effect on the playoffs? But with Seattle and Vegas, you had 82 home games and 123 televised games. Expand the play-in a bit, and hey, NBA, you make up the revenue gap. League's deeper than it used to be. Smaller divisions bump to play each team in your division 6 games per pairing. What do you say, Ray? This proposal to get the Sonics back and Seattle versus Portland reignited, it's been a boon for the MLS. Do you like it, or do we need to punch it up a bit?
No, I do like it, and I think, yeah, look, this is another part of the like I've really enjoyed the way the NBA has evolved. Like, I love the old school, but I love watching the game today. What I don't love watching is the regular season. I just and this was true with I don't know, like the game we're talking about. I don't know if I went to a single regular season game that year, and this was true most years. I would like not go to regular season games, and then playoff tickets cost like 2 or 3 or 4 times as much, but it's easily worth. I mean, to me, it's worth it. right? Because you might get a chance to see something incredible. So most years I would try to predict which home game had like probably the best probability of being a closeout for the Blazers, and so I ended up seeing a couple of them, including this one. Yeah, I would say any kind of scenario that involves de-emphasizing the regular season, especially with, I don't know, the injuries, and we used to joke about load management or criticize it, and now I think most people are like, yeah, that's what you should do. You should not be wearing these guys out, because the game is more the game's just more, it's more like everything's more explosive than it used to be. These athletes are just incredible. Uh, I don't know, like the things they can do are things you didn't really see. You didn't see it all in the 80s, and you saw some of in the 90s. But now, like the amount of explosiveness and the way they change direction and and stop on a dime is a little different than what it used to be. And so when the game is played like that, I don't know, like that's kind of my theory on why you're seeing more of these kinds of injuries, and it's just overuse. It's a game that does not need nearly as long a schedule as what it has.
Yeah, and you hear, oh well, cutting games to be a non-starter for the NBA. Well, we can get a lot. We can make up a lot of that gap by adding 2 expansion teams. One of them in Seattle. And can we live the dream of the '90s NBA Pacific Division? Seattle, Portland, Sacramento, Golden State. Is that as a quartet division? What would it be called, though? I had trouble naming what that quartet would be called. If we do 8-4,
Yeah, like you couldn't really call it the Pacific Division anymore, because you would still have the Lakers and the Clippers, right?
yeah, they're going to
Those are all
Southwest Division.
the Southwest, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I would like, you couldn't call it the Cascadia Division, because the Kings and the Warriors don't qualify. You could bring the Grizzlies back to Vancouver, though.
Yeah.
You could do that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what you would call it, but I do miss. I don't know. The Sonics Blazers rivalry was great. Would they? The Blazers won the title in '77, the Sonics in '79, and then, yeah, as you mentioned, like through the '80s and particularly the early '90s, the Blazers were phenomenal. They had this starting five that was just incredibly well balanced, and it was what Duckworth, Kersey, Drexler, Porter, and Buck Williams, and the Sonics could never get over the top of that starting five, and it was when they were developing their core with Gary Payton and Sean Camp, and they had some good players come through there. They had Tommy Gunn, Chambers, and the X-Man, and Dale Ellis in there. Don't forget Derek McKee. So they had good teams through that period, but they were always second to the Blazers in the Pacific Northwest. I think the Blazers go to the NBA Finals against Detroit and Chicago in like what, 89, 91, something like that. So yeah, I miss those times. When both of those teams were good, which they often were. Those were great games. And there are fan bases that just genuinely did not like each other, and that kind of exists today in the MLS Timbers Sounders rivalry. And I do consider MLS to be I consider it to be 5 majors at this point, but it's not what the NBA is. So yeah, like I think that would be great. It would be great for the region to have that rivalry back.
Yeah, I mean, NBA, sees what this could be in the '90s. At least they did, and the MLS seeing that with Timbers versus Sounders, And 90s NBA, yeah, 90 Lakers win the Pacific Division. But the rest of the 90s, it's mostly either Portland or Seattle. Yeah, Portland, especially early on, as you mentioned. Yeah, 3 straight Western Conference Finals appearances and those two clashes with the Eastern Conference in the finals. But also, you have Seattle in the mid to late 90s getting to the conference finals often, making MJ go 5 for 19 in a closeout NBA Finals game. No one made MJ struggle like the Seattle Sonics did in that NBA Finals series. And I guess the 72 win team, crazy. Phoenix had a good stint, a couple division titles there with Barkley, but it was like less than half the 90s he was there. So I would say this is a golden NBA division. Maybe the Fog and Pines division or something. I don't know. I don't know.
The Seattle Twin Peaks division.
How about Twin Peaks division. Yes, actually, that's good. Seattle, Portland, Sacramento, Golden State. We have the Twin Peaks division. And maybe we unveil the expansion Sonics and our new 4-team division on July 6, 2026, when Seattle hosts a match in the World Cup knockout stage. Portland does not host one. Vancouver, Canada does. 4-hour Amtrak between there and Seattle. Not a bad area to be in 2026 during the summer. But our new NBA division would be a great candidate for intercity high-speed rail. You have a lot of great videos on that subject. Seems like we won't be moving the ball toward saving people time, lowering energy, transportation costs, or aiding technological process in the big dog shit bill, but we could theoretically build a new high-speed rail route. Can I interest you in HSR, Seattle to Portland under an hour, Portland to Sacramento under 3 hours, and Sacktown to maybe the Richmond BART in under 30 minutes? Does connecting a region or adjacent regions in that way, could that benefit the NBA and have diffuse benefits beyond it?
Oh yeah, no, I'm firmly in favor of this for all sports. I've seen all kinds of these high speed rail maps. I love the ones that are like high speed rail for SEC college football stadiums and things like that. Like you're gonna connect Oxford, Mississippi, and Auburn, Alabama, or whatever. I don't know. Like for sports. Portland. So one thing is, like, Seattle people are not Blazers fans, and they just never will be. They never really adopted. It's not like the Sonics left and they're like, oh, we still need an NBA team to root for. They're more like, nah, we don't want any part of the NBA. But Portland folks often do adopt the Seahawks and the Mariners. And so those trains, it's the Cascades, which I think runs 5 or maybe 6 trains a day between Portland and Seattle. It's not high speed. It's a little bit higher speed because they're the tilting trains, so they can go a little bit faster around curves. But they tend to get stuck behind freight trains, so it's not the most reliable system. But those trains will be packed on Mariners game days and definitely Seahawks game days. Like I've booked a ticket to go up to Seattle just for some other reason, and then I got in the train and it's just loaded with people wearing like Mariners gear or Seahawks gear, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's a game day. So yeah, and that's for like I think that's a scheduled 3.5 hour trip, maybe 3:45, and again, it's not always super reliable. It's usually on time, but sometimes you get stuck behind a freight train. Yeah, if that's like an hour or even a 90-minute trip, then yeah, you've got all of a sudden you've got a lot more potential Mariners fans going up and hoping to fill that stadium 81 times a year.
Yeah, at the very least, that seems like Gavin Newsom might be soon in the mood to put some rail up between Sacramento and East Bay, or at least we're pushing them into the right, or we're guiding them to the right mindset. It seems like these days. But I sent you that 32-team division realignment map. The Bucks' new division absolutely cooks with Milwaukee, Minnesota, Chicago, Detroit. That's the Lakes division, the easy one. Though Milwaukee in there just waived Damian Lillard, Who knows when we'll see him back on the court post Achilles injury, and if he'll be quite the same at his age. Good reason to revisit peak Dame time, and to make the thrilling finish possible, he had to put up, once again, 34 in the first half, drags them within a shout. They, after some early turbulence, take their first lead of the game, just under 2 minutes in the first half, on a three from Seth Curry. So Seth Curry would play Steph Curry when y'all eventually reach the conference finals for that sweep against the Warriors. But right now, in the locker room, up 61-60, unreal shooting from three for Dame. The NBA three-point line at the top of the key is 23 feet 9 inches. Paul George, one of the very best shooters that season, launches from 25 feet on average. Damian Lillard walks out of the locker room and hits one from 34 feet with 7 seconds on the shot clock. This is a franchise and a fan base, again, that has had some tough second half playoff moments in the past. How critical was it for the vibe in the arena that Dame came out at halftime like that? And how did the crowd respond?
Yeah, I mean, this is another thing that's different. Like, it used to be in the NBA that you just didn't even bother shooting 3-pointers because it was just, it's too difficult to shot and it's not worth it. No, it's all you do. It's not all you do. But it's such a huge part of the game now. And at the same time, defenses have gotten better and better at closing out on 3-point shooters. So it was over the last, 5 or 6 years, you've started to see more and more often players pulling from like 28 and 30 feet. And Dame and I think Steph are really kind of the originators of that. And I think for a while it was seen as kind of either show-offy or, we can talk about this, but you can call them not very good shots if you want. They're lower percentage. But if you're an amazing shooter like Steph is, I don't know if I would put, I don't think I could put Dame in quite that category, but he's not that far off. Those are guys where those are still pretty good percentage shots if you're getting 3 points for them. And so as Blazers fans, we're kind of along on that ride of Dame kind of like revolutionizing the game a little bit. You see that kind of thing a lot more often. It wasn't considered a conventional thing to pull from that deep, and now you see it quite a bit more. And so just to see him come back out at halftime and just kind of pull from deep with authority. It made you feel like, we're in this. We don't have Nurkic. CJ is not having a great game, but Dame's gonna keep us in this, and we're gonna get this win.
And it starts off the way you want, of course. Shades of 2000 Game 7 or even 99 Game 2 against the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals. Thunder go on a 30-6 run, end up 105-90 midway through the fourth. Dame struggling to carry the day as much as earlier. We need CJ McCollum to take and hit some big shots, maybe get a scoring outburst from Mo Harkless. Someone has to, as you mentioned, step out in the three. This defense was struggling to do it against Dennis Schroeder, who's bombing away. Paul George is going for 36. Russ is getting a another triple double for the Thunder in that bygone Billy Donovan era. Did you notice any Thunder fans coming alive in the stands that fourth quarter, or was everyone holding those tickets tight in Portland?
Yeah, there were Thunder fans there. Even though it wasn't really their year, and as good as it's one of Paul George's best, maybe even his best individual year, honestly, for all the teams he's played on. I mean, just amazing two-way player. But the Thunder were a 6 seed. Not a great year, but even so, the Oklahoma City fans, I don't know. Like I'm going to crack on them a little bit, but it's really all they have, right? They don't have other teams in any other sports. And so they go all out for the Thunder, and they've been very I don't know, like I hate that they got ripped away from Seattle, but all credit to the organization for doing as well as they've done. I mean, Durant got drafted when they were still in Seattle. They followed that up with Westbrook and Harden. Like, they drafted MVP. Like, all three of those guys won MVPs, league MVPs, and they drafted them in like back-to-back years. They kind of hit rock bottom a little bit, and then they quickly assembled a team that just won an NBA championship. They've had very few down years. They had a couple kind of atrocious years, I think, 3-4 years ago now. But for the most part, with Durant and Westbrook and Harden and Adams and Ibaka, they made great runs, and so Oklahoma City's been able to enjoy a lot of success. So yeah, like some of them came up to Portland to try to root their team on to bring the series back to OKC for Game 6, and yeah, they were loud. What few of them there were in the building, they were loud in the middle of the fourth quarter, and Blazers fans were, I think, like, yeah, it looks like this is going back to Oklahoma City for Game 6, and then you just don't know what could happen in Game 7. So it's really taking the air out of the building quite a bit.
Do you think any of them came down from Seattle, if you catch my drift, or no way?
No, not a chance. Not a chance. Although it's possible somebody came down just to root against the Blazers, because hardcore Sonics fans would maybe still do that, but I don't think you could root for the Thunder.
Put on a Thunder jersey to do it.
I don't think you could do that.
Pure spite to go through that just to spite Portland.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be hard for me to imagine a Sonics fan who dislikes the Blazers more than they dislike the Thunder, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
They hate the Blazers so much they wear a Thunder jersey.
No.
Well, those fans will probably get a little less buoyant with the Blazers clawing to within 6, 2 minutes in the game. McCollum hits some big shots. Russ gets called for a charge. Dame gets to the rack for the tie. It will be one possession for each team here on out. Paul George is 14 for 20 on the day. Russ is dribbling in the backcourt. The Thunder's last possession on offense here. What would you like, or what did you want to see here from the stands, and what were you most worried about on that possession?
On the Thunder's last possession?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was concerned about seeing anything from Paul George, because he could hit threes, and he was really effective from mid-range. What I wanted to see was Westbrook jack something up, which I think is what happened. I don't think he mentioned his. I think he was like 11 for 31.
Yeah.
It was kind of a classic Russ game,
He tries to take Aminu off the dribble to the rack.
Okay, yeah. I think, right. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a microcosm of what his whole game is. I think he had like 29 points on pretty inefficient shooting, and he filled up the box score with a triple double. It's the kind of play that won him the league most valuable player, but it's also the kind of play that isn't necessarily that effective at winning games. He's a very he's a high utilization player. Like, he's basically going to touch the ball on every possession, and he's going to be involved in whatever happens. And like, he's an amazing athlete. But his shot has never been super reliable. Like, a lot of times it's just kind of like flat and clunks off the side of the rim. Like, it doesn't catch the inside of the rim. So anyway, as a Blazers fan, that was that was what I wanted to see, and I just, yeah, I didn't really want to see the ball in Paul George's hand at that point.
El Farouk Aminu had the same idea you did. It seemed like he just completely giving up the jump shot if Russ wanted it. Was ready to drop, get a body in the way, hands up if Russ were to drive, and he did. Miss shot, and now you have Damian Lillard dribbling next to the logo with the clock ticking down. How quiet is the arena?
It's not quiet. It's not quiet. Well, it hasn't been quiet. Well, certainly since the Blazers start making, because when they're down by 15 in the middle of the fourth quarter, the air is really out of it. And then I think they get a couple stops and make a couple shots, and then they're down like 10 or 11. It's like, okay, we have a chance to get back into this if we can get stops. And then the other thing I didn't mention is I think at like 3 minutes left in the game, so nobody's seen Yusuf Nurkic. Like he had if I remember it, he had a gruesome leg injury, and he was in like convalescence or whatever. Yusuf Nurkic walks into the arena during a timeout with like 3 minutes left in the game, and they put it up on the big screen, and the crowd goes crazy. So this is at the point where
good for Nurkic.
Yeah, Blazers had a little bit of a love affair with Nurkic. We get him from Denver because he's expendable, because they took one look at Nikola Jokic and went, oh yeah, I think we have a center.
Yeah. And then LaMarcus Aldridge had just left recently, right? Yep. He didn't want to be there. And
no, yeah, he was off to greener pastures in San Antonio.
But Nurkic wanted to be there.
Yeah, Nurkic wanted to be there, and Nurkic was well received. Like the team improved, and I think he might have come in. When the Blazers were wrapping it down here. I think Lillard might have even been injured, and immediately the team immediately started playing better, and he was pretty effective for a couple of years there. So the Blazers fan have a lot of love for him at this point, and so he comes in unexpected. They show him on the big screen. The crowd, like, it amps up the energy. It's not like there's a roaring ovation, but it amps up the energy of the crowd big. It's like, oh yeah, no, like, I don't know, like there was something about it. Like you could feel the energy level just go up a couple of notches as soon as you walked in. So it's not quiet at any point. And then even on this last possession, yeah, I think like I forget who pulls down the rebound, hands it off to Lillard. I think there are like 15 seconds left, and he's just kind of, they have a timeout, which they don't take. And yeah, he walks the ball up. It gets quieter, but there's still like a pretty healthy buzz in the arena, because, you know, I'm not sure we're expecting them to take a timeout. They don't. People can't, like, the crowd kind of isn't ready for the moment. It's like, we're not going to get a breather to try to get ready for this. Like, it's just going to happen. And yeah, like you just know, like the whole building knows that Lillard is gonna take the shot. Like there's not gonna be a half court offense, even though they had time to run something, right? But they didn't take a timeout. There aren't gonna be any screens. There isn't gonna be anything. So that's, yeah, I wouldn't call it quiet. There's a buzz of anticipation, I think, with 10 seconds left here.
And Lillard already has 2 from 30 plus feet in this game. Actually, he has 2 from 30 feet, 1 from 34. And here he is standing or stepping back to 37 feet from the hoop. Long range 3. It's good, as we hear on the broadcast. Where are you caught in this mass of humanity after this one drops?
Yeah, I'm not someone who spends big for for tickets way down close to the court. I was kind of close to mid court, but I was way up high, which is kind of a fun way to do it because you've kind of got the whole arena in front of you, and it's still a pretty good vantage point. And so the whole crowd is standing for like, I don't know, probably the entire, I don't know, maybe the whole last 2 minutes. I can't remember. I can't remember the last time I've been sitting down at this point of the game. And yeah, and so what, the game is tied. Oh, by the way, and the Lillard is sitting on 47 points.
Yeah.
At this point. And so he kind of dribbles up, and he's not, like he's kind of he's dribbling out the clock. He's going to make sure, the Blazers get the last shot. Worst case scenario, it's going to overtime. And there are things that my vantage point from where I am in the arena, like he pulls a shot from like 38 feet or whatever it is, and it swishes through the hoop. I like watching, you get like the super slow motion replays on stuff like this now, and it's just interesting that because Paul George is such a great defender, and he knows Lillard's going to take the shot, and at a certain point he also realizes, oh yeah, he's going to shoot it from really deep, but I still have to find a way to challenge this, and he does ineffectively, and because and I think this is something that is invisible to most of us. Like I don't understand it that well, but the highest level NBA players have the ability to do these, I don't know, like I feel like they're like micro hesitations that just get the defender's timing off just enough so that they can get their shot off. And Lillard does this. He's got like just this tiny hitch in his dribble that gets Paul George a little bit off balance, and then he's able to raise up and get a shot up over him, even though Paul George has every intention of bothering or getting a piece of that shot. He just can't do it. And Lillard he still has to make a deep shot, but it isn't contested the way that Paul George would have wanted to contest it. And then famously, I think after the game, they asked, and Paul George just said, that was a bad shot.
Yeah, that was a bad shot. Bad shot.
And he's right, kind of, a little bit. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad shot. It went in, right? So you can't really. It sounds ridiculous when you say that, but he's kind of right. I mean, if Paul George was going to give up an uncontested shot, he would probably want it to be from that range. But I'm sure if he had it all to do over again, he would wish that his timing hadn't gotten out of sync and he was able to rise up with the shot the way he wanted to, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and then the Lillard famously says "see you" to the Thunder and mugs for the camera.
Yeah, and I think and I don't think that showed up on the big screen. Like I didn't realize all that had happened, partly because I was so far away, but I didn't realize all that happened until I was out of the arena and I finally had, because you can't get Wi-Fi service hardly because everybody's on their phone. I was finally outside the arena, had Wi-Fi service, and I was kind of looking at the replays, and that's when I saw like the shot of him getting piled on by like Enes Kanter and all these people, and then he lifts his head up and just kind of nods at the camera. He never smiled, and that's just him. Like he never smiles. It's all business. It's just kind of like who he is. It's his persona. And just that moment when he lifts his head up and like just nods at the camera. It was so iconic, and it was so it's just kind of so true to like the type of player and the type of personality he has.